Walther. How's cute to get me one of these.
Welcome back to James Bond Efficient. Today I'd like to welcome Ray Kromphold of the Bond Armory. You may have seen him on David Zansky, The Bond Experience, and with Being James Bond, Joe Darlington. Ray, how are you doing today?
Very well, very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It's still kind of early for me since I'm not usually up at this hour myself, but it's still pretty early. So, Ray, before we dive into some questions, let's hear about your intro into the James Bond universe.
Oh, man, I've been a fan since I was a kid. Geez, I don't even know where to start. I think it was my grandmother that actually introduced me to it. My first movie was Goldfinger. Just been a fan since. Everything about it, it's just the character itself is just too cool.
Yeah, I started with Thunderball through my father,
Okay.
and then it worked from Thunderball to GoldenEye, and then Tomorrow Never Dies, and then first one in theater was The World Is Not Enough. So
Gotcha.
I have very good recollection of that. Plus, of course, GoldenEye in '64 was the hit thing
Yes,
at that time.
absolutely.
So
Actually, I think that was my first in theater was GoldenEye as well. And then when the game came out, just every weekend after school, whenever, everybody gathering around playing
oh
it.
yeah, I remember just gathering around with everybody in the neighborhood, and of course, it was four little squares on one little screen, and doing that. I think the complex or one of those, I can't remember which one it was, but just we'd all team up like 2 against 2 and shooting like the ammo crates into one little room and
Right,
say, oh,
right.
we're gonna order all this weapons cache, and it's like,
Oh man, what was it? The temple? Was that one of the levels as well?
yes.
Yeah, I think that was the one that we always played all the time with the secret entrances and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and if you remember that, when you unlocked it during single player, you'd see the machine guns in the secret hallways. So it's like, I gotta reframe back, try to throw plastic or something down that way. So let's talk about the firearms aspects of James Bond, since that is what your channel is about. And unfortunately, I know I messaged you to see if you had any of them on hand. Unfortunately, you said that you didn't.
Yes, all locked away.
Yeah. So back to that. He's been using his PPK since Dr. No, but we briefly see him use the Walther PD5, if I remember correctly, in Octopussy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him get introduced from the P5 back to the PPK to GoldenEye. And then at Tomorrow Never Dies, we see him introduced to the P99, which is a great weapon to Casino Royale. But my question for you is, why do you think they didn't reintroduce the PPK in Casino Royale compared to switching it over from the P99? Like, I know at the pre-title sequence it was the PPK, if I heard correctly.
Yes.
But why do you think they didn't stick with it throughout the whole entire film?
Man, that's a really good question. I think going through the forums and stuff, we've actually it's been a topic of discussion. Why go back to the PPK from the P99? Why not make it a more modern firearm? I really think it had to do with fanfare, to be honest. I think everybody, it's such an iconic gun, the PPK. Casino Royale sort of being a reboot of sorts to the series, so they maybe just did the opening sequence with the PPK, maybe wanted to carry it over from the Brosnan era with the P99, and I think people just complained about it so much, fan-wise, that in the follow-up in Quantum, they decided just to go back to the PPK and stick with it for the rest of Daniel Craig's tenure. It's just a theory, but yeah, I'm really not sure.
Yeah. I personally would have loved to seen the PPK stuck through the whole entire series. Like, I understand why they did it. Well, they switched from the P5 and Octopussy, of course, because of the competition with Never Say Never Again. And of course,
Very
if
true.
I remember correctly, the P5 was just released that year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Latest and greatest Walther, so why not stick it in the movie?
Yeah, exactly. So that could be a little bit of a reason why. Well, that is the reason, if I heard correctly as well, with the P99, because it just released from Walther saying, hey, we need to get some way to promote our new handgun out there, and the P99 was the latest at the time. Why not use James Bond? It's a great product placement right there.
Absolutely. So, and Brosnan even uses the line, I asked Q to get the new Walther, I asked Q to get me one of these. So
exactly. So for people looking to get their concealed permits, and since this is a James Bond page, and of course you run the Bond Armory, what are some of the firearms from the James Bond films would you recommend people trying out for their concealed permit, and first timers actually shooting that have never shot a firearm before?
Let me see. One of Fleming's personal favorites. There's actually a couple of portrait style pictures of him. There's a Ruger Mark II or Mark I. I always mix it up. That's a 22 caliber handgun. I always recommend any first time shooter start with a 22. There's hardly any recoil. It's one of the smallest rounds you can shoot. Just gets you used to the function, the sound, any recoil, not that there is much with a 22, just to get comfortable with the firearm and then move up calibers from there. For concealed carry, the PPK is an excellent option. I don't care what anybody says about the calibers. 380 is one of the most popular calibers for concealed carry. Lately, the trend has been stepping up to 9mm in compact firearms. Bond carries a 32 caliber with his PPK. It was in Skyfall. Q introduces him to the PPK-S, the signature, and he says it's 9mm short, which is a German reference for Kurz, which means a smaller round. That's actually 380, not 32. So I believe that's the first time Bond stepped up the PPK in caliber. The Walther P5 does have a compact model that's chambered in 9mm if you wanted that bigger round. It's an excellent gun, and it actually has right side ejection. So it's opposite what most firearms are, which makes it ideal for left-handed people. What else is there? Any of the SIGs, the 226 is a larger gun. For concealed carry, you kind of want to stay small and smaller, which is more concealable. But there's a ton of different options out there. As far as what Bond carries or used in the Bond films, the PPK is probably the ideal choice. There's also the Beretta Jetfire, which is a really interesting firearm. The barrel actually tilts up instead of back. So makes it easier for, I always recommend it for older people that have trouble racking slides. That way you put the magazine in, tilt the barrel, drop your round in, close it, and you have a chambered firearm, and it's ready to go. That way you don't have to worry about working the slide back with a really strong spring. Those are available in 22, 32, I think 380 if I'm not mistaken, so that's another really good choice. But yeah, those are the main ones I could think of for concealed carry that Bond would use. Anything else is a little bit on the larger side for that.
Well, I just learned something new right there, to be honest, about that Beretta. So, I personally have a hard time when I'm out there shooting with friends out in the woods. You know, I'm always having a hard time cocking it back with the slide, and
it's a really cool gun.
I did not know that, so I will have to check that out sometime. And I take it you carry it out at FreeState gun range in Baltimore City.
Yes, that's correct.
So
we're actually in Middle River, just outside.
Middle River, my bad. You're living in Baltimore City, correct?
Oh, working in Baltimore City.
Working in Baltimore City. Okay. All right. See, well, throwing me off a little bit today.
It's all good. Still early.
Yeah, right. It's only 12 o'clock. So I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning something new. How How old were you when you were? Well, let's get into a personal aspect, I should say. How old were you when you got introduced into the firearms, and did James Bond play an effect to wanting you to get into it?
Let's see, I had to be 9 or 10 years old, I think, somewhere around there, with pellet guns, that kind of thing. Just in my father's backyard, or we'd go to the woods, set up soda cans in the trees, paper plates, just little plinking and stuff like that. Really didn't get, I always had an interest in it, and I think it just had to do with my affinity for action films and Bond specifically. And once I was old enough to purchase, I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up there, moved to Maryland 11 years ago. But in New Jersey, they have really, really strict firearm laws and regulations and stuff. So it never really even popped in my head to try purchasing one while I lived there. Moved here for a job on the fire department, and they were like, "Oh, watch a video on the internet, print out this little card, sign it, and you can buy a gun." I'm like, "Wow, that's incredibly easy."
Yeah.
The laws since then have changed, but I figured, why not? I'm here. I could do it that easily. Purchased a revolver. Was always hunting for the PPK, though, and they just never popped up. They were, at the time, super rare, especially with the pause that Walther did on the manufacturing of them. You can either get the old imported ones, but no new manufacturer. And the older they are, the more expensive they are. And just starting a career in the fire department was not making a lot of money at the time. So just took a little time and finally found a couple of them and just went from there.
Now, if I remember correctly, going back to some of your videos on your page, you have finally found the closest thing to I think you said Thunderball.
No,
which one? You would have to clarify on this.
So with anything that I have that's Bond related, especially the firearms, I try to be as accurate as possible. So for me, the challenge was not only finding the PPK in the right caliber, because 380 is way more dominant than the 32s. They're a lot harder to come by. Then there's also pre-war models and post-war models and modern models, and each one there's little design changes that they make. And I wanted to find one that was as close to what Bond would carry as possible. So I had to try to find one that was around the years that the films were being made, the correct caliber, without import markings. 1960, was it 66? I always forget. 68. There was a ban for the PPK because it was too small. It didn't meet the import requirements. Eventually, when they got lifted, a bunch of different companies got them, and they just stamped their logo right on the side of it next to the Walther banner, or along with the Walther banner. Obviously, Bonds wouldn't have that on there, so the challenge was finding one that was directly from West Germany, was a post-war model, didn't have the squared-off slide. It had this nice little elegant curve to it, the proper grip, proper caliber, and then the year of manufacture, which is stamped on the chamber. The one that I ended up with was from 1966, which was as close to a Bond year as I could get. I really wanted one that was it Dr. No in 64?
62.
62. Rarest of rare. That's hen's teeth right there. So, but that's the one I ended up with. I'm still looking. There's always a chance I could find one that's closer, but right now, that's
you
as
never
good as
know with all the people that are trading and such.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Anything can pop up at the right time or even the worst times where people will be like, just gonna hand it down. Time to trade it on.
That's true. That's true.
Let's talk a little bit No Time to Die, since we're finally inching closer, about almost a month out.
The home stretch.
So it's the final stretch. Here we go.
Super excited. And it seems like every other week they're popping up a little teaser for us, just not that we're losing interest, but it just keeps stepping it up a little bit. The behind the scenes that Cary Fukunaga just posted the other day, yes. Mind blown.
I was just about to go there. What was your thoughts on that?
It just blew me away. The cinematography from a behind the scenes perspective, it was gorgeously shot, and I can only imagine what he's going to bring to the actual film itself. I'm just really looking forward to it. Those little snippets that we haven't seen a view from behind the camera. I just can't wait to see it on the big screen.
Oh, I agree. I think he's probably brought the best direction since Terrence Young, in my eyes. I see a modern day Terrence Young when I'm seeing his work, and especially with the trailers that have dropped and just hearing everybody's theories. It's like, it's amazing what he's done.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of strange that it seems like every announcement prior to the whole thing culminating together, it was met with such controversy, but then every time something was shown, we're just like, oh, wait, we were wrong this whole time. Or, oh, the naysayers were wrong, I should say.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
The theme song, the cinematography, him as a director, Nomi's character, all that, it's going to be fantastic.
Oh. And let's just jump in the conclusion. If she is 007, it's not the end of the world.
I've been saying it when that rumor first started. I kept saying it's Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's not an NBA or an NHL team. They're not going to retire the number and hang the jersey. It's a number. She's not James Bond. She's not going to be Jane Bond. I do think that the number is going to be his in the movie. Well, I think it could be both of them, but I think he's going to end up with it, or he's just going to flat out retire and then pass on the designation.
Well, and I always hate doing this, but it's the only decent reference I have. It going back to Die Another Day, when sadly when Miranda Frost is seducing Bond, when she says something along, "You're a 00," and when Bond repeats saying, "Oh, it's only just a number." That was probably the best line delivered in the Brosnan era, in my opinion, because the 007 number is just a number. It can get assigned to anybody and anybody who is available at that time.
Anybody who's earned it, sure.
Exactly. And of course, Bond's been retired for 5 years. She's been a 00, accordingly to the trailer, for only 2 years. So it only makes sense that she moved up the ranks throughout that 5 years, and they needed to assign somebody's that 007 number.
Very true.
So that's how I look at it.
Oh, is it?
And that's how I look at it.
Yeah. And 0011 just doesn't sound right. Neither does 0010. So I'm thinking they only have 9 numbers to choose from, or 9 of these agents out there. So.
Well, in Thunderball shows only 9 agents sitting in the conference room. So, and I think in The World Is Not Enough, it shows only 9 agents sitting in Scotland. Right.
And they've killed off agents before and replaced them with different 00s. Was it 008, 009 that they killed off in Roger Moore? I can't think of it off the top of my head now. Anyway, they killed him off, and then he returned in, I think, one of the Timothy Dalton films.
I know both of the there was 2 agents that died during the training exercise in The Living Daylights, the pre-title sequence. And then there was 2 agents have died, and I think, again in Rogers. But we never saw any die, and of course, George, Sean, or we never saw really any die in. We never saw any die in Pierce's. So, who knows? Maybe nobody dies in No Time to Die, but we don't know.
Possibility. Who knows?
So, what are you looking forward to most seeing in No Time to Die, to be honest?
Ooh, man, well, just the film itself, but if I had to really choose, being the action gun guy and all that, I'm loving all the clips of the commando scene, which I think could be the climax of the film. all of that just looks great. And another couple clips popped in there with the Cary Fukunaga interview, stuff that we hadn't seen before. So it just looks really good. A lot of action. It looks incredible.
I look forward to seeing the Jamaica scenes the most, and especially him wielding the spear gun.
Yes, yeah. I always forget about that. We got that one little snippet from the teaser or the production teaser, and then we just got one recent. I forgot which one, the Super Bowl or whatever the other trailer that came out was, where you see him walk past the window with the spear gun. I wonder if we're finally going to see Bond, do some snorkeling or scuba or something again.
Well, and that's what I was hoping. I like, yes, could this be a nod to Thunderball or something?
To me, they've been doing that a lot in each one of Daniel Craig's films. They kind of give you little nods towards the previous films, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that.
Well, and he was wearing like swim-like shorts and t-shirt and flip-flops, but it would be like, the question is, why would you wield a spear gun? And because they're shooting it through the window and you're looking at him. Who's in his villa or whatever you want to consider it, his house, or somebody has to be sitting in there. So
somebody does.
It's kind of wondering, like, I wonder if it's Felix.
I have a very strong idea that it is Felix. I think that's when we get reintroduced to Felix. He thinks somebody broke into his house. It's Felix. Then they go out drinking to talk about whatever it was they want to talk about, the big secret that we're waiting to hear from at that club. And then we meet Nomi, and then goes from there. That's my theory.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great theory, to be honest with you. So, should I jump into the big? What's your thoughts on the rumor potentially Rami Malek being Dr. No?
It's Dr. No.
You think it's Dr. No?
I totally think it is. From the art competition, there was just so many little leaks and things like that. Some of the scenes, the set pieces even, are straight out of Dr. No. The collared shirt. Who was it? I think Joe Darlington was saying, like, just because he doesn't have a mechanical hand or something doesn't mean it doesn't have to be Dr. No. And I think that's kind of where the story is going to be, by some of the things that we hear Safin say in the trailers, that instead of it being like a mechanical hand or something, whatever he's playing with has to do with genetics. And I think that's going to be his mechanical hand, his type of reproduction of an organ, or a limb type deal, something that gives him an extended life, I guess you could say. Something along those lines. But I totally think it's Dr. No.
Oh,
and I don't even know if his name is really Safin. We've been told his name is Safin. IMDb says it's Safin, but we haven't heard the name Safin in any trailer.
Yeah.
So,
and I always think, because we're due for at least one more trailer before the movie drops, which will probably be soon because we're going into March.
Very true.
Let's see. You're right. It's a genetic aspect. And if the movie stands to what the rumors are saying, it's going to be 3 hours long.
Yes.
I've always thought, because you see the nods, of course, like we discussed, of it's genetic, it's potentially Dr. No. What if it is nuclear? He submerges his hands and loses his hands, and then he has to genetically make new hands that look real, but they're actually artificial, of course, genetic.
Could be.
So, plus, of course, the scarring on the face.
Very true.
How does this all explain? We don't know. There's so many unanswered questions. And that's what I think I like most about going into this movie. We don't know anything about Safin. So
some people have said that the trailers have given away too much. I think they've put enough out there to do this and make these discussions happen. Nothing there's nothing blatant, nothing's been completely, said, but it sparks conversations like this, which I think is great. And I don't think they pushed it too far. So
No, and I don't think so either. I think we're just at the right pacing of it. Now, given said, we still have one more trailer to drop.
it's true.
So hopefully that doesn't spoil anything too much.
What do you think about the other big rumor, the biggest rumor of them all?
Well, it's which one are we talking about? There's been so many.
The one that none of us want to happen. The rumor that it could be the death of Bond.
I'm not fond of it. I don't
Agreed,
want to see
agreed.
it. But I'm not opposed against it. The reason why I say that is, let's say, yeah, let's kill him off. Have it go completely black, but do the famous James Bond will return, roll the credits. Depending on how Eon goes about this, let's say we go back to the format of 2 years. We don't worry about recasting, even though Ben Wishaw's announced saying, I'm not coming back. Let's hope that they bring back Naomi and Ray Fiennes. But I would like to see them do, if they want to kill him off, do something like they did in, You Only Live Twice at the pre-title sequence. Have it be him getting a burial at sea, or just a burial and having them cut the body bag open, and then having the new Bond pop out saying request to come aboard or something like that, and then
Right.
have it be announced, and then go into the briefing scene with M. I don't know, it's something like that. But I'm not fond of it, but at the same time, I would be open to a new introduction to the new Bond like that.
Very true. Yeah, I can see that happening, something along those lines. I mean, I'd like that not to happen at all, but I think if they were to do it, it might be a little hokey, but do oh no, is he alive, is he dead? And then, you just camera panning, he's sitting somewhere having a martini,
Right.
fake death, he's out of the game for good this time. Or is he?
Well, then there's that line from the trailer, I thought you were dead, from Q.
Oh, yeah.
So, does MI6 think he's dead from when he was jumping off the bridge? But how would they know he died? But again, we also saw Madeline Swan as the interrogator, or doing interrogation on Blofeld.
It's true.
So she must be in contact with MI6 in some way. And that was my next question. Christoph Waltz is coming back as Blofeld, and I know you said that it's more going to be like a Hannibal Lecter type role. Do you still stand by that? And do you think we'll see him bailed out of prison, or do you think he's going to be stuck behind a jail cell the whole entire movie?
At first I thought it was going to be that Hannibal Lecter type role, going in for guidance on who this new guy is, the big baddie Safin. After watching some of the trailers again, seeing some of the action sequences with the people rappelling down the walls, the explosives in the hallway, I might think that could be MI6 or whatever building he's being held, Blofeld's being held at, and it could possibly be a escape attempt. Not opposed to that idea. I think that would be cool, but then that'd be a whole lot of bad guys major bad guys running around the same film, which could be why it's a 3-hour movie. I'm not entirely sure. I like the idea of him still being locked up, but if he did escape or get broken out, it could leave it open for the following film. Our main bad guy from the franchise is still out there after Bond's dealing with Dr. No. Or Safin, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. And I hope you didn't catch. Well, I kind of saw that in your trailer as well. That it looks like a jail cell, and of course you see the bad guys repelling, and I kept on looking like closer at my screen. Wait, that looks really familiar, and especially when you freeze on the Blofeld scene. So, and that's when I set up, when Bud West, the Bond Brain, was doing his live stream. I was like, you know what? I'm going to chime in and actually say that. Because I was like, that sounded, it looks so good. But, I don't think people want to face the reality. That's what's really probably going to happen. Blofeld's going to get bailed out of jail and from Spectre agents or Safin's army, and then Bond's going to have to face both of them.
It could happen.
Yeah. So, how about we jump into some rapid fire questions, Ray, before we wrap things up? Favorite Bond film of all time?
Oh, I have a soft spot for Goldfinger, but I'd have to go with Casino Royale. I think that was just a perfect movie. Or do I? Because I don't know. Goldfinger has the gadgets and all. I'll say Casino Royale.
We're not talking about the spoof or the
no
CBS or special, right? Favorite firearm to shoot at the range?
Favorite firearm to shoot at the range? A lot of choices. Lately, it's actually been the SIG 365. Super small 9mm. Awesome gun.
Favorite gun barrel sequence?
Ooh. Favorite gun barrel sequence. I'm going to go with Casino Royale, to be honest. I think how they did that in a practical setting and turned it into the gun barrel sequence was really clever and super cool. Very well done.
Favorite firearm brands?
Favorite firearm? I'm all about the Germans. Walther, Sig Sauer, definitely my top two.
Who are some of the James Bond community members you enjoy watching on YouTube and just interacting with?
Ooh, let's see. Obviously, David Zaritsky, Joe Darlington, Calvin. Calvin's awesome. I like watching his stuff a lot. Who else is out there that I watch a lot? I listen to a lot of the podcasts as well. 007 Intrepid, James Bond Radio, That One Bond Guy coming up on YouTube. They're a lot of fun too. Really enjoyed his recent one too with the Thrifting for Bond challenge. That was pretty cool. Yours as well. I love the interviews and Ladies Who Bond. The stuff that the collaborations you guys have been doing, some really great conversations going on there too.
Well, thank you. And a shout out to That One Bond Guy.
Oh, there he is.
And your friend. So I am wearing the shirt today. So
very cool.
So I got to give both of them a shout out for that. So what is your favorite gadget?
Favorite gadget? Can I just say the DB5 as a whole?
That's fine. That's fine. The question is which one of the DB5s, because there's been numerous of them.
That's true.
Numerous. So there's of course the one from Goldfinger, Thunderball. Oh, the list goes on. So
I'm gonna go with the oddball one because we haven't seen it completely yet. But how about No Time to Die? I'm just a big fan of the Gatling guns as opposed to the Browning style machine guns. It's super cool.
Right.
It has to have the ejector seat though. Has to have the ejector seat.
Well, hopefully it's in there because I think it'd be a little good old homage to Goldfinger. But I don't think Bond would eject Madeline that way. So
I was just gonna say, they open up with that sequence where they're like bickering, having that huge fight and all. What if Bond was just like, I'm done? Hiding secrets from me. Click.
Yeah. Right. Don't do that to me.
Shortest Bond ever. It's not 3 hours. It's 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that was the best 3 minutes I spent on a ticket, to be honest. Uh, did you read any of the Fleming books or novels? And which one was your favorite? Or it can be non-Fleming related as well.
Gotcha. I was actually much more into the movies. It was probably in the past 2 years or so. I started actually, I can't even say reading, but listening to, having kids and stuff. It's really hard for me to get a couple minutes to sit down. And when I do, it's wife time. So my commute to and from work, that kind of thing, I'll pop on an audio book on my MP3 on the radio in the car. Casino Royale was really good. Her Majesty's was really good, but I think my favorite one so far hasn't been a Fleming novel. I really, really liked Forever. Was it Forever and a Day?
That sounds about right. The one from... Isn't that from Anthony Horowitz?
Yes, yes. Anthony
Yes.
Horowitz. I gotta check, make sure I got that right. Forever and a Day. Anthony Horowitz. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Jay
twist.
Sadowski was telling me that I need to do the audio book route since I haven't picked up any of the books, and it's like you really should, because it will give you a different perspective how the character is, how he acts compared to movies. But that is definitely on my list. And of course, the movies give you more of the visual aspect, but it doesn't give you the true Fleming adaptation. So
Very true.
Well, Ray, I want to thank you for making some time to talk with me today, and I appreciate all the support from you. And I look forward to seeing more content from the Bond Armory going forward.
I appreciate it.
And if you are in the area of not Baltimore City, you can correct me on this one.
Middle River.
Go check out FreeState Gun Range, and maybe you'll see good old Ray standing behind the counter, and he will give you a little breakdown on the weapons of Bond. As well, check out Ray's Facebook page, the Bond Armory, and Instagram. Links will be down below. Ray, thank you again for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you for having me, man. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.